5. After Dennis Montgomery saw Brennan and Clapper commandeer the Hammer foreign surveillance tool and transform it into a domestic surveillance system for blackmail and leverage, Montgomery said enough, walked away, and became a whistleblower. 6. In 2013, Dennis Montgomery alerted multiple officials in Washington, D.C. that the Hammer was being used to conduct illegal domestic surveillance. In fact, Montgomery, and we've seen the evidence on this, sent faxes to President Obama and Vice President Biden to alert them about the ongoing illegal domestic surveillance. What'd they do? Nada. Of course. Why would they? 7. Brennan and Clapper used the Hammer to spy on Supreme Court Justice John Roberts. Wonder why it makes some of his decisions kind of become clear, huh? Yeah. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. 156 Article 3 judges. I wonder if one of those was Emmett Sullivan, the guy who's the choke point on just dismissing, granting the motion to dismiss that the Justice Department did 6 months ago on General Flynn. What about a fair and speedy trial? Right. Not in the deep state world. They also monitored FISA court presiding Judge Reggie Walton, members of Congress, Wall Street executives, Rudy Giuliani, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Donald Trump, Trump Tower, multiple Trump businesses, and members of the Trump family. Brennan and Clapper spied on Trump because the CIA feared Trump. Brennan and Clapper wiretapped Donald Trump, quote, a zillion times, end quote. The Obama White House could access the Hammer at will through an encrypted VPN. 9. In August 2015, Dennis Montgomery, under a limited immunity agreement, provided FBI General Counsel James Baker and FBI Director James Comey with 47 computer hard drives of evidence proving that Brennan and Clapper had used the Hammer to conduct illegal domestic surveillance. Including on the 47 hard drives was 10,000 pages of documents regarding who? The bagman, Hunter Biden. Oh! Yeah. They just didn't find out in December 2019 about this. The FBI has been sitting on this since August 2015. 10. In December 2015, Dennis Montgomery, under a second immunity agreement, provided the FBI and Department of Justice with the sworn testimony about the Hammer and the contents of the 47 hard drives. Now look, for anybody who says, wow, he's lying, really? Because he testified under video, under oath, at a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility. Electronically, it can't be hacked into. He testified under videotape, under oath. Now, for 5 hours, by the way, at December 2015, if he would have said one tiny little lie, don't you think, rather than give him an immunity agreement, they would have, thrown him in prison? General Flynn didn't even lie. And they tried to throw him in prison. No, he didn't lie. He told the truth. But then they had this information that Comey, then the director of the FBI, had a deep six. Yeah. What's also missing is in 2006, the then director of National Intelligence, John Negroponte, hit Dennis Montgomery with the ultimate in silencing documents. That's called the state secrets privilege. It says that if he speaks about this in public, he immediately goes to prison. That's a sock and a gag they put in his mouth. But remember, he turned over information that showed a crime committed by the government. In fact, under testimony, James Baker, the former director or the general counsel of the FBI under Comey, testified in October 28 to Congress under oath that he had sent a team down that collected these hard drives that showed, quote, government officials illegally surveilling other government officials and American citizens, end quote. That was supposed to be hidden, that testimony, but if it were not for Doug Collins, who's now in charge of the recount for President Trump in Georgia, Doug Collins got on the floor of the House of Representatives and released that testimony. Incredible patriot, Doug Collins. Number 11, the hammer framework. So the hammer breaches the system, breaks in. Okay? And once it gets in the system, it can launch what are called exploits, apps, that can then do their designated target. One of those apps is called Scorecard, which is used to change votes. Okay? So hammer, crash, breaks in through the internet, okay? Breaches the system, and once it's there, you got to do something, right? So burglar breaks into a jewelry store, right? Okay, well, now that you're there, well, that's a crime, breaking and entering, but he still hasn't taken the jewels and put them in a bag and walked out. And what Scorecard does is it takes the jewels, the votes, it replaces them with other votes, M&Ms, and then walks out the door. And that's what Scorecard does. So in this review, the hammer framework could throw multiple exploit applications. The Obama team used a hammer application called Scorecard, according to what General McInerney stated and what is in the article by Fanning and Jones, to actually steal Florida in the 2012 presidential election. The Biden campaign, and actually the Clinton campaign apparently, had used it in 2016 to get rid of Bernie in the primaries. And the Biden campaign used it earlier in 2020 to get Bernie out of the race so Biden could win the primary. And finally, the Biden campaign is using Scorecard to steal the 2020 presidential election. But there's a problem. You're the problem, according to them. You see, what you did is you got out there and you voted like you've never voted before. And anyone who believes Joe Biden actually got 73 million votes when Barack Obama got 68 million votes, come on. I mean, I'm not a fan of Obama, obviously. But look, people see him as charismatic. Nobody, zero, not even his own wife, see Joe Biden as charismatic. Basement Joe belongs in a basement. He's that crazy uncle that you just don't want coming out. 73 million people. The most votes in American history were for that guy? Legitimate? No. No way. No way. In fact, he tarnishes to all those progressives out there that still are on this right-left axis stuff as opposed to the up-down axis, up being freedom and down being oppression. All those that are still infatuated with that right-left garbage, because there's one party, right? And just look at how the Republicans have not come up to help Donald Trump. That's predicted. Why did anybody think any different? There's one political party. We've called them that for years, 10 years since my radio show existed. The Republicrats. Owned and operated by a criminal syndicate, the deep state, the globalist syndicate, the New World Order, whatever you want to call them. Of course they're not going to come help them. Here's where you're going to find out who the patriots are. Here's where you're going to know who's not owned and operated through the information gleaned through the hammer, through the underlying illegal surveillance platform. Here's where you're going to find out who's going to stand up for freedom, liberty, you, every American, and the Constitution. Write it down, because you know what? Here's the bad news, but not surprising news. It's going to be a really short list of who's on the good side, and you're going to see a bunch of traitors. Like, well, I mean, you can't even call Mitt Romney a traitor. We've always known he's a globalist. And now Biden's talking about him running Obamacare if he ends up getting in the office. And by the way, Biden is not president-elect. Let's get that straight. I know the media has coronated him that, but that's no. You don't become president-elect until the electors vote, and that's December 13th, 14th. No. Right now, he's just a guy who's a puppet whose handlers are trying to steal an election for. The media can't call an election. They want you to think they can. They can't. Tell me where in the Constitution it says that the media determines who the president-elect is. Not there. Not there at all. So I'm going to have a link to this article by Fanning and Jones. It's entitled Biden Using Scorecard and Hammer to Steal Another U.S. Presidential Election, just like Obama and Biden did in 2012. They published this article October 31st, 2020. I'm going to just read the first couple paragraphs for you. It's a fantastic article, and you should. And it's not that long. It's not that long, but you need to have it, and you need to circulate it to everyone you know. In February 2009, the Obama administration commandeered a powerful supercomputer system known as the Hammer. The Hammer includes an exploit application known as Scorecard that is capable of hacking into elections and stealing the vote, according to CIA contractor turned whistleblower Dennis Montgomery, who designed and built the Hammer. The whistleblower tapes, confidential audio recordings released by U.S. District Judge G. Murray Snow's courtroom in November 2015, revealed that Scorecard was deployed by the Obama team against Florida election computers to steal the 2012 presidential election on behalf of President Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. Scorecard is now being activated to steal the vote on behalf of Joe Biden once again. Biden utilized the Hammer and Scorecard while running for vice president in 2012. Votes are again being stolen on Joe Biden's behalf as he runs for president of the United States. Now look, and that's the article by Fanning and Jones that I'll have in the pinned comment. Now look, rightfully so. People will say, well, wait a minute, you did this interview with this came out October 31st, Saturday. You did the interview with General McInerney Sunday, November 1st, 2 days before the election. Well, what happened? Okay, so we found out about this plan of attack. General McInerney contacted me. We put it on the radio, and then we took it and flipped it immediately through our Nick and our IT team onto YouTube. Well, it lasted there until 7:11 in the morning on election day, and I got a notification it violated community standards. Okay, a 3-star general that was formerly in charge of our nuclear capabilities, you're going to take him down? Okay. But what we also did is we tried running this through and into the Trump administration so they were aware. I am not going to name names, but we were blocked. We were blocked at a number of different crossroads trying to get this to the boss. And that's where I'm going to leave it for right now. And I'll let General McInerney address this at another day. Not for me to address. This is it goes a much higher level. But I want you to know we all tried. And it was so doggone frustrating. Now, when many people hear about Hammer and Scorecard, they say, well, how do I think about this kind of more generically? Because this tech stuff is difficult. So here's a way to think about it. I mentioned to you about breaking into a jewelry store and switching the jewels for the M&Ms and walking out. Okay. Now, many people are saying, well, what about the software, this Dominion software? Oh, yeah, they're involved. In fact, that software was designed so it had a hole in it that made it easier for Scorecard to work into it, right? That's not a coincidence. Not a coincidence at all. So, let's think of it this way. We're at point A, right here. And I want to go to Costco because Costco's great. That's point B. Okay? And I have 4 friends with me that want to go to Costco with me, and they all love Donald Trump. So we get in the car, and as we're getting in the car, myself, I'm in the driver's seat, and I got 3 guys in the back and 1 passenger. As we're getting in the car, a guy comes up to us, says, you know what? I'm from an organization called Dominion, like the voting machines. And, well, rather than these 4 passengers, I'm going to say one of these guys has to get out of the car, and this guy has to get in the car, and he likes Joe Biden. Well, we don't want to do that. You don't have a choice. You're going to do that. All right. So now there's me driving the car. I got the guy sitting next to me in the passenger seat that likes Joe Biden. And we got 3 in the back seat. Okay. Now, the guy sitting next to me in the passenger seat is like Biden. I mean, he can't string a sentence together. He mumbles a lot. He's obviously wearing Depends because he can't control any bodily function. And here we are. So we're driving and we're going to Costco. Okay. We're on the highway. So think the highway of being like the internet. Okay. And in the internet, the way information is transferred is in packets, like cars. Okay. So think of a highway being the internet. You have a point A and a point B, and the internet is in between where information is transferred, and they are transferred in packets. That's how votes are transferred. Okay? Well, we're on the highway, and we're driving in our packet, our car, and all of a sudden, I look in the rearview mirror, and there's this van behind us. And the lights start flashing and they pull us over. Oh, gee. I wasn't speeding. And these guys don't look so good. They're kind of nasty looking. And we decide we lock our doors and we keep the windows shut. And, Joe Biden Jr. next to me, or whatever the hell his name is just mumbling to himself, saying incoherent things. And these guys say, we want these 3 people in the back seat to get out of the car. No. So what they do is they break out these hammers and they breach our car. They chop in and they open the doors. That is what the hammer surveillance platform does. The hammer breaches into the internet. It jumps into the internet, opens it up. Okay? And that's what just happened in my packet of information here. And they jump in, and they take my 3 buddies, all for Trump, out of the back. Meanwhile, Mumble and Joe is next to me. And they take 3 other people, and they put them in the back seat, and they're all mumbling Joe Biden supporters. And they take my 3 buddies away. And they say, go where you're going. So now I got a car full of 4 mumbling Joe Biden supporters. I pull out and I get to Costco. Now when I get to Costco, I got to Costco with 4 other people. Right? But they're all Biden supporters. And when I left my home, I initially had 4 my Trump buddies, but then this Dominion initially muddled things up, so I ended up having 3 of my buddies and the 1 mumbler, Joe Biden supporter. But if someone looked in that car, that packet, at the beginning, I had 4 people. And then when that Dominion dude came up and put switched out one of the Trumps for the Bidens, I had 3 and 1, but I still had 4 people. And when I ended up at Costco, I had 4 people, but none of those 4 were the Trump guys. You see, that is what Scorecard does. Hammer breaks into the car, and then Scorecard changes who's in the car. And then that car or packet goes to its destination, the Secretary of State's office. And when the Secretary of State's office goes, well, there's five people here and 4 are for Biden and 1 is for Trump. When in fact, when we started out, there were 5 in the car that were for Trump. When the Dominion software system was implemented, there were 4 Trump and 1 Biden. But by the time we got to our destination, Costco, the Secretary of State's office, it was 4 mumbling Bidens and one Trump. And that is the way to think of the hammer, breaching tool, scorecard, application, exploit that jumps off and does the dirty, changes the votes. And yeah, Dominion is the software company that essentially leaves a hole for scorecard to do its dirty. Now, when we started speaking about this, a number of people said, well, this is interesting. This is on Sunday and on Monday, but wow, that can't happen. And then Tuesday happened. And then Tuesday night happened. And then Wednesday early morning happened. And all those folks that doubted about this all of a sudden realized, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is exactly what happened. And it's happened before. Now, I want to play for you a clip. Sidney Powell, the Friday after the election, went on Lou Dobbs on Fox Business News. And you know I'm not a fan of Fox. I think there are several people there that are good. Tucker Carlson, Lou Dobbs, Elizabeth McDonald. I know you don't like it when I say this. I'm not a big fan of Hannity and with his CIA lapel pin. You know, there's two pins, the bottom one, CIA lapel pin. Not so much about that. Ingram does okay, although I had heard that she was kind of saying that the president should possibly concede with dignity or something of that sort. I always thought of her to be kind of a bit of a fighter, but if that in fact is true, that's of concern. But Lou Dobbs had Sidney Powell on, and Sidney Powell, as I mentioned earlier, is an incredible freedom fighter. Here's what she said.
Your thoughts first about the knowledge now that the Justice Department is involved in this review of the election.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I think there are any number of things they need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President Trump, just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Well, Sidney, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
And there you have it. Sidney Powell made all of Washington take a collective, you know where I'm going with that interview. This is what they've all been fearing for years, that this would come to the forefront. And what it took was an election that was blatantly and deliberately stolen in everyone's view. Wide open. But here are the real heroes of this. You. You went out and voted. You got other people to vote. And in the process, you made it so that their crime became blatant. That even the most brain dead of zealots has to acknowledge exists. It's not conspiracy theory. It might be conspiracy, but it's fact. Do not buy into the psyops about President-elect Biden. Sorry. The media doesn't choose president-elects. They think they do, but they don't. You do. The American people do. And that doesn't occur until the electors vote, which is December 14th. And there's going to be a tremendous amount of water under the bridge before that happens. I truly believe that. And we're going to have answers on the table, and we're going to have a lot of people. They're going to have a lot of answering to do. I thank you for your time. I hope you'll become part of our freedom family at davejanda.com. At a minimum, listen to the radio show. It's free every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. But I hope you become part of our freedom family. You'll have access to all of our archives, all of our shows. You'll have access to the extra shows, the WTF Geopolitical Show, our Insider Insight Show, our Department of Advanced Research Show with Nick Ruiz, our Healthcare Policy Series, our Contributing Editors section, you name it. It's all there for you. You know what? Dump your cable bill. Save you $100, $150 right there. $9 a month. Biggest bang for the buck. Hope you become part of our freedom family. And if you can't, well, we put a lot of free information up on the site. And we hope you'll become part of our family. Thanks for your time. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for joining me today.